Díomh a cardja agus fáilte gach duine go dtí a cáid speisialta I Barcan Crulcaig. Tá mé caint beo ó áit speisialta seo. Hello everybody, families and friends of missing people, and many others who care. You're very welcome to this event to mark National Missing Persons Day. This is the 9th annual event. We've come a long way since we first gathered at Farmlee in 2013. We outgrew that location because of the sheer number of families who embraced the event, and we moved to King's Inns. We were virtual for last year's event because of the pandemic, but this year we are, while still virtual, I'm speaking to you live from Croke Park, our home for Missing Persons Day this year. And I'm joined here this morning by Minister for Justice Helen McEntee and by Garda Commissioner Drew Harris, and also by two other speakers we will hear from later on, Dr. Kieran McLaughlin, who is representing the country's coroners, and Gerard O'Flynn from the Irish Coast Guard. I want to thank our violinist for our beautiful opening music. Damie is 16 years old and a fifth-year student from Dublin. She's been playing violin since she was 3. She's a proud member of the National Youth Orchestra of Ireland. We also have beautiful tributes from some families of missing persons that have been recorded especially for today's ceremony. I also welcome members of the media who are tuning in, and it is the case that publicity can offer huge assistance to missing persons cases, and we need that publicity. I also welcome members of the PSNI who are tuning into today's event. Across the island today, there are 876 long-term missing persons cases. 815 of those are being investigated by An Garda Síochána, and 61 cases are being investigated by the Police Service of Northern Ireland. Missing persons is an all-island issue, and our ceremony today remembers all people missing on this island. Later, as always, we will reflect on some of the developments in the past year, acknowledging the successes in searches and solving some long-term cases. And also we consider what more needs to be done. I know that on previous Missing Persons Days, one of the most special things was being able to interact together, perhaps grab a quick word with the Minister or Commissioner, if only to say you'd like to speak to them further about your loved one's unsolved case. Unfortunately, we don't have that direct in-person interaction today, but I hope in time we get back to such times. And now I would like to invite Minister for Justice Helen McEntee to address us. Minister.
Thank you, Barry. Well, good morning and welcome to this year's National Missing Persons Day ceremony. I particularly want to extend a warm welcome to all the families, friends, neighbours and co-workers of missing persons. This is your commemorative day and this is your ceremony. This year marks our 9th annual Missing Persons Day. It also marks our 2nd virtual ceremony, and I'm really sorry that another year has passed, that we're not able to come together safely in person for this important day, but I sincerely hope that we'll be able to do so next year. I know that this event, like many other annual occasions, represents another marker in time since you saw your last saw your loved ones. And I understand that this is difficult, that it may in certain respects compound your sense of loss. However, I also know that from attending last year's virtual ceremony, from speaking to people who have attended previous ceremonies in person, that Missing Persons Day provides families and friends affected by the ambiguous loss of a loved one with comfort, with hope and indeed a sense of unity. This National Day is about ensuring that your family members are not forgotten. Different sights, different sounds, simply the routines of everyday life can bring back memories of our loved ones. They can bring them to the forefront of our minds. And music plays such an important role in that. So often music and song, they remind us of the ones we love but who are not by our side where they belong. A memory of someone humming a tune in the kitchen, singing their party piece at a wedding or a family gathering, or simply holding your hand at a concert when your favourite group plays your favourite song. This year, my department has worked with local, regional and national radio stations on our Thinking of You initiative. We've asked the stations to play the favourite song of a missing loved one, along with a tribute from their family, as well as, we hope, capturing memories, playing tribute We hope it will make people who hear these special songs ask themselves if they know something and if they can help. Because raising awareness is also a major part of Missing Persons Day, and I would like to encourage people who may have information to come forward, any information, even if it appears insignificant or irrelevant. It has the potential to be important and valuable to both those investigating the disappearance of our missing persons and the families and friends of missing persons. I'd also like to take this opportunity to encourage close family relatives of missing people who have not yet done so to provide a DNA sample for uploading to our national DNA database. New laws which were passed in recent years provided for the establishment of a DNA database system for use by An Garda Síochána, and this assists them in identifying missing and unknown persons. The collection and subsequent matching of DNA samples from this database represents a key turning point in the identification of human remains in Ireland, and already it has provided much longed for closure for an increasing number of families. As I've said, National Missing Persons Day is first and foremost about the families and close friends of our missing people. It's an opportunity to share your experience, your journey and your loss. Sharing stories today are Carol Morris, daughter of Albert Timmins, who went missing in December of 1980. Joanne Dorian, the sister of Lisa Dorian, first reported missing to the PSNI in February 2005 when she was just 25 years of age. Aideen Walsh, granddaughter of Barbara Walsh, a mother of 7 children who was reported as missing from her home in Galway in June 1985. And Jackie Wilson, mother of Peter Wilson, a young father of 2 children who went missing in Tenerife in March 2019. Peter's remains were discovered in Tenerife in January this year and were repatriated to Ireland for burial in April. And I want to extend my heartfelt condolences to Jackie, Peter's mother, his father, Peter Sr., and to the rest of Peter's family. Thank you all so much for sharing your family's journey with us today. I know that your words and your experience will resonate with others affected, their families and their friends. I'm sure that they will feel less alone on account of your generosity too. As Minister for Justice, I am determined that in the Department of Justice and the wider justice sector generally, that we do all that we can to help you. We've undertaken a number of important initiatives in recent times. In June of this year, Minister Humphreys wrote to each coroner in the state requesting that they send my department details of all unidentified human remains within their districts. And to date, 35 of the 38 coroners have now submitted these returns. They're being collated by department officials and they will be shared with the Missing Persons Unit at the Garda National Protective Services Bureau for analysis. Moving on then from 2022 onwards, coroners will be asked to include details of any unidentified human remains reported to them in the preceding year. This is part of a new annual statutory return to myself as Minister for Justice. My department will then provide an ongoing annual update to any new cases to the Missing Persons Unit in order to enable the Gardaí to follow up with the individual coroners. Also in July, we established a forum. This is made up of officials from my department and members of An Garda Síochána and Forensic Science Ireland to enhance existing ongoing agency cooperation. I'm pleased to say the group has met on 2 occasions to date, and the current focus has been on the collaboration between An Garda Síochána, Forensic Science Ireland and the Coroner Service in relation to unidentified remains. Over the past 12 months, Forensic Science Ireland has introduced and validated next generation sequencing. This is a new tool to assist in human identification. The investment will allow Forensic Science Ireland to examine remains which up until now may have been too badly damaged and where traditional methods of DNA profiling were unsuccessful or simply couldn't work. The validation of this tool has now been completed, and this, together with the move to a purpose-built laboratory in Backweston next year, will facilitate the expansion of Forensic Science Ireland services into the coming year, something which I think we all welcome. National Missing Persons Day is privileged to have long-standing support from so many organisations throughout the island of Ireland. The Garda Commissioner is here to speak on behalf of An Garda Síochána, who provide a dedicated service across their entire organisation to the families of missing persons. Forensic Science Ireland's commitment to finding answers from the DNA database is as strong as it always has been. The Coroner's Service does vitally important work in supporting families of missing persons, and I know that Dr. Kieran McLaughlin will speak about his work today also. Gerard O'Flynn, the Deputy Director of the Irish Coast Guard, will also speak today about the work, often carried out in really dangerous conditions with the utmost of bravery, that his search and rescue organisations do the length and breadth of this country. There are numerous voluntary and community organisations providing support to families, and I thank each and every one of them for the work that they do. As I mentioned and has been mentioned at the outset, Missing Persons Day is a whole of Ireland commemorative service. And I want to welcome families, friends and organisations that join us this morning from Northern Ireland. My special thanks go to the PSNI and to the Wave Trauma Centre for your ever-present support. And I applaud the work that you do in supporting families in Northern Ireland. I would like to extend my personal thanks to Barry Cummins, who has volunteered his time to be our Master of Ceremonies this year, just as he has every single year since Missing Persons Day began. Barry's commitment to highlighting your stories, your experiences, it has over time only deepened. Each year, Barry volunteers his time to support National Missing Persons Day. He's also raised awareness, he's highlighted issues of importance, and I know he's remembered the anniversaries of your loved ones, and I am sure that he will continue to do so. Most importantly, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us today at this 9th annual National Missing Persons Day ceremony, especially the families of missing persons. This is a day to commemorate your missing loved ones, and today we remember with you. They will never be forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. I'd also like to say thank you to members of your department who've worked so hard this year to make this day happen in the manner in which it is happening. A lot of work has gone into today. Thank you. Today is a day when we remember and a day when we reflect. Last year in the Republic, there were 823 long-term missing people. That figure is now down to 815, and that is a good thing. But some of the cases now solved should give us pause to reflect and give authorities pause to see what more could be done. In May, during a search by volunteer divers with the Cork City Missing Persons Search and Recovery Unit, they found the body of Barry Coughlin, who had been missing 17 years. Barry's body was still in his Toyota Corolla car when it was found in the water at Crosshaven, just a short distance from where Barry disappeared in 2004. While we all welcome the fact that Barry's body has been recovered and the wonderful work of volunteers who found him, we must reflect that the extensive searches at the time, back in 2004, did not find Barry. We all must learn from that. When you search and you fail, search again and again. I extend my best wishes to the Coughlin family. Another case to give us great pause this past year. For 25 years, the body of Dennis Walsh rested in County Galway, unidentified, with Dennis having disappeared from County Limerick, 2 counties down the map. While we welcome the fact that forensic scientists managed to solve the mystery of Dennis's disappearance this past year, it is so very sad that nobody joined the dots in the 1990s to 2000s or since then. We must learn from these cases, and that includes myself. I previously reported Dennis might have travelled to Belfast or to the Isle of Man. It never dawned on me that he lay unidentified so close to home. We all must learn from Dennis's case, and I extend my best wishes to the Walsh family. The 876 people currently missing long-term on this island all have a story, a unique mystery, a legacy of questions, of pain for those left behind. For families to share their stories is of huge help to other families in the same position. We are now going to hear one of the 876 stories we could hear. One of the families to share their story today is that of Albert Timmins. Albert, a father of 3, is now missing 41 years. He was last seen in North Dublin. To tell us more about her dad, Albert Timmins, we now hear from Carol Morris.
Every day you're sitting waiting for the guards to come and tell you they found the body or found the car, and it just eats away at you. My name is Carol Morris and I'm from Swords. The person that's missing is my father, Albert Timmins. He was good fun. We always had fun times in the house, and he was a very quiet, happy-go-lucky person. Anyone that met him said he was a lovely man and time for everybody. would always do a good turn for anybody. He was just one in a million. Every Sunday we would go for a drive and we'd end up in different places, and we always had good fun days on a Sunday. And on a Saturday evening when he finished work, he always came in with a bag of sweets for us all. On that day, he came home from work and he decided he was going to visit his friend in Gaeltacht Park and go for a drink with him. And he knocked up to his friend, and his friend was sick, and he ended up going to the Viscount for a drink, and that was the last I was ever seen of him. It's a very painful experience, and you have to go through it to know, like, people think, oh, the person's missing. And the longer it goes on, you just forget about them. You'd never forget about them. There's not a day goes by that I don't think of me dad, you know, like, and it is very hard, and you go through different emotions. You feel bitter, you feel angry. It's just very hard, because you think they're going through all these emotions that I thought, like, at one stage, if he came home, I was going to kill him for the hurt. Like, I couldn't understand why he walked out and left 3 of us. Like, the brother was married, but he left 2 young children. Well, like, at 16 years ago, like, you weren't very mature, like, not like 16-year-olds now. You feel then, did he not love you? Loads of emotions going through your head. At this stage, I just wish we knew. Even if we got a finger or a nail, we would be happy with that. That sounds terrible, but we just want to bring him home.
Thank you, Carol. I know that in recent times you made sure that your dad's case was placed on the Garda Missing Persons website. There are many cases featured publicly on that website, and if any family ever wishes to ensure their loved one's case is made public in that way, the Missing Persons Unit will be most happy to ensure it is. And likewise, I know the PSNI will do the same if a loved one is missing in the north. I reflect on the fact that Albert Timmins' car was never found. It was a white Wolseley car, registration YZU 896. That car is out there somewhere. Albert Timmins is out there somewhere. I think of other missing people who are missing along with their vehicles, such as Alpho O'Reilly, who worked in RTE. He's missing 25 years this year, missing since 1996. Conor and Sheila Dwyer, now missing from Fermoy, 30 years. I reflect on how the body of Tony Lynch was found in his vehicle in a lake in County Fermanagh after 18 years, and how the body of James Patterson was found 29 years after he disappeared. James' body was found still in his car when it was recovered from the River Bann in County Derry. These cases show that mysteries can be solved and families can get their loved one back if more and more searches are conducted. It's impossible to search every single waterway in the country, but we can seek to better coordinate searches, to work with search and rescue teams, volunteer divers who may be on training exercises, and ensure that over time as many sections of the island are properly searched, perhaps to find vehicles, perhaps to find some missing people. Garda Commissioner Drew Harris is now a familiar attendee at National Missing Persons Day, both at King's Inns and more recently in a virtual sense. The Commissioner is here at Croke Park for this morning's ceremony, and I invite the Commissioner to address us now.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Minister, ladies and gentlemen. My sincere thanks for the invitation to speak with you all on the 9th Annual National Missing Persons Day. Today, we all remember each of those who are missing. This day is an important opportunity to share your fond and cherished memories of your loved one. And we are very privileged to learn about them and all of their special qualities through your personal tributes and reflections. People go missing for many reasons, but when they do, it leaves a deep and open wound. And I recognise that this lasting trauma is endured by families and friends of those who go missing, a burden that despite the years does not ease. There's never clarity of mind when trying desperately to make sense of your loved one's disappearance. You continue to live with uncertainty, and the pandemic will have added further to your grief. There's been the inability to meet with your extended family and loved ones, who have often helped you cope and manage with a multitude of difficult emotions. The restrictions put a pause to the National Missing Persons Helpline's excellent family peer support programme, and you've not been able to mark days like today in person with others who also have shared similar experiences where their loved ones are missing. For the family and friends left behind, I think it is not knowing that hurts the most. Establishing the whereabouts of a missing person or the truth of what happened is not just important to the families of those missing, but is also important to our society as a whole. As we've heard already, there are currently 815 people missing in Ireland, some for many decades. Each missing person is part of a community or belong to a place that they considered to be home. And Gardaí and Garda Síochána have a duty to establish the truth about those who have gone missing, to help those affected come to terms with it, and to bring some sense of closure to these terrible events. The Garda Missing Persons Bureau and Gardaí nationwide work tirelessly to locate all of those who are missing. In some instances, this requires close cooperation with our policing partners overseas, including in Europol and Interpol. Improvements continue to be achieved in the tools available to us to investigate missing persons. Advances in DNA tracking, as has already been mentioned, and the establishment of the National Missing Persons DNA database place us in a far, far stronger position to identify the remains of loved ones. I once again urge you all, if you've not already done so, please submit a DNA sample to the Forensic Science Ireland. Your DNA, as a family member of a missing person, could very well be the difference in solving a case. With your support, the support of the general public, those who use social media, and the media themselves, this helps us raise awareness of renewed appeals. And this is all in the hope of sparking someone's memory. One small piece of crucial information might make the difference now. It may have seemed insignificant then, but could have the potential to lead to a breakthrough in a case now. Often events can resolve these situations as well. This year, the remains of Barry Coughlin was returned to his family after 17 distressing years. His body was found in Crosshaven, as has already been outlined. We do hope, and it is my hope, that this has brought some sense of peace to his family and friends, and I would wish to extend my sincere sympathy to Barry Coughlin's, to the Coughlin family. No matter the passage of time, you have never given up or stopped caring. The search has kept going, and An Garda Síochána is with you. We too will never give up on the hope of bringing your loved ones home. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, and I acknowledge as well the work of Garda liaison officers who are a source of information and comfort to many families, and I know many of the liaison officers are watching today as well. I also want to say thank you to members of the Garda Missing Persons Unit. Some families will know the names. I thank Detective Sergeant Carmel Griffin, Detective Garda Daniel Keeney, and Detective Garda Sandra Brennan and Susan Waldock. Thank you also to Detective Inspector Anne Ellis and Detective Superintendent Jerry Murphy. And in the PSNI, I thank Detective Constable Temra Neal and Detective Chief Superintendent Anthony McNally, who have helped ensure today's event is reflective of the entire island in terms of missing persons. As I said earlier, there are 61 long-term missing persons cases being investigated by the PSNI. Our next family contribution is from the family of Lisa Dorian. Lisa was murdered in County Down. Her body has not yet been found. We now hear from Lisa's sister, Joanne.
My sister, Lisa Dorian, has been missing since 2005. We are almost 17 years now without knowing where Lisa is. She had her whole life ahead of her. She was a funny, beautiful, very maternal person. We're very close as sisters. Lisa went missing on the 28th of February 2005. She had gone to a caravan site with some new friends that evening, and something happened that night which caused her to be disappeared. We have never seen her since. We were then 9 days into a missing persons investigation when the police came to us and told us that they believed she had been murdered, and they were going out the next morning to arrest someone on suspicion of the murder of Lisa. We're in a very unique position of having a missing person, but also knowing that they have been murdered without ever finding their body. We live in limbo, but it's a different limbo to the normal missing limbo, because we know Lisa's not coming back alive. Lisa was my big sister, and I completely idolised her as we grew up. I always wanted to be with her, I always wanted to go out with her. I borrowed her clothes, we swapped makeups, we did all the usual sibling sister things. We wholeheartedly try every day to find Lisa and to bring those people to justice. We have a little bench and a tree in Castle Park in Bangor, which was set up by her friends, and that does bring us some solace, but it in no way replaces having a place to go and feel close to Lisa. So on those days when we want to remember her, we come together as a family and talk about her, talk about the funny things she did, the silly things she did, the not so funny things she did. You know, Lisa was a normal 25-year-old girl. Missing Person Day is one of the most important dates in my calendar now. It's so important for families to know that their loved ones are not forgotten, and that in coming together, the missing community can support each other and help each other to get through this limbo that we all live in. But the main thing I would say to anybody going through this is never think that you will not find your loved one. I see it happening all the time. It hasn't happened for us yet, but I still believe it will. And I think that hope is all you have when you're searching for someone.
Thank you, Joanne, and I hope your family gets answers. I know there have been many searches for Lisa, and I hope that work continues, but the PSNI needs information, ongoing information from the public. I also think today of 3 other cases of people who have been disappeared, 3 people killed and secretly buried by the IRA. Joe Linsky from Belfast lies buried somewhere in County Meath. Columba McVeigh was taken from Dublin, killed and buried somewhere in County Monaghan. And British soldier Robert Nairac was taken from County Armagh, killed and his body hidden in County Louth. As long as those 3 men remain missing, there's a legacy that must continue to be reported on. I often think it's a part of our history that should be taught more in school. I'd like to reflect now on an Irish soldier who went on peacekeeping duties for the United Nations 60 years ago and never came home. Pat Mullins from County Limerick was the youngest son of Ned and Catherine. As a teenager, Pat played football, hurling and handball. Pat came from a large family of boys and girls and is remembered by surviving sisters and wider family who are watching in this morning. Pat Mullins joined the Irish Army, Óglaigh na hÉireann, on the 9th of May 1960, recruit number 810552. He was stationed in Cork. Just over a year after becoming a soldier, Trooper Pat Mullins went to Congo as part of the 35th Battalion on the Army's first major peacekeeping operation. 26 Irish soldiers died in a 4-year period in Congo between 1960 and 63. One of those was Pat Mullins. On the 15th of September 1961, Pat was posted as missing after a UN convoy was ambushed in a suburb of what was then known as Elizabethville in the Katanga province of Congo. Pat's body has never been recovered. He is the only Irish soldier from that UN mission whose body was never found. Pat was posthumously awarded the Military Star, the Congo Medal, and the UN Peace Medal. And we remember today, 60 years missing, Trooper Pat Mullins. We remember all of our missing people, children, women, and men. Today, we remember.
hold you in the palm of His hand. May God hold you. May God hold you. May God hold you in the palm of His hand.
Thank you very much. Beautiful. From soprano Ruby Boland, accompanied on piano by Owen C. Lynch. Ruby is 18 years old. She's from Clane in County Kildare. She's a student at Newbridge Vocal Academy under the tutelage of Owen. Thank you, Ruby, and thank you, Owen. We remember every person who has been lost on land, and we remember every person lost at sea. Among those lost at sea is Desi Hayes, who was 29 years old when he drowned 30 years ago this year. It was on the night of the 21st of November 1991 in Dublin Bay that a terrible collision occurred between a B&I container ship, MV Kilkenny, and a German ship, MV Hasselwerder. Desi Hayes was one of 11 crew members on board the Kilkenny, which sank within minutes. 8 of the crew survived, 3 were lost. The bodies of PJ Keogh and Dave Harding were recovered. Unfortunately, despite extensive searching, the body of Desi Hayes was never found. Desi is now missing longer than he was alive. Desi was from the North Strand on Dublin's north side. Like his father, also Desmond, Desi Jr. spent 4 years in the Irish Navy and then worked on the boats. Desi was the eldest of 4, the only boy, and he is remembered by his mum Anne, now 80 years old, and by his sisters Susan and Joanne and Sandra and wider family. And Desi Hayes is remembered by all of us today. The Irish Coast Guard has performed immense work down the years, carrying out search and recovery missions in the most extreme of weather conditions. They have saved lives and they have also recovered bodies, ensuring that families have loved ones to lay to rest, that they have answers. I'm delighted to now ask Gerard O'Flynn, Deputy Director of the Irish Coast Guard, to address us. Gerard.
Thank you, Barry. Minister McEntee, Commissioner in Garda Síochána, distinguished guests and the wider virtual audience. Thank you for your invitation to this very poignant ceremony. And may I begin by extending the sympathy and support of all my colleagues in the Coast Guard to the many people who continue to suffer the pain of separation and long-term uncertainty. Given the Coast Guard's role in search and rescue, and supporting An Garda Síochána when requested to assist them in missing person searches, I thought it appropriate to give some sense of Coast Guard capabilities, particularly in the non-maritime sphere, where the Coast Guard has long established arrangements in supporting An Garda Síochána. Coast Guard, as coordinator for maritime search and rescue in Ireland, is responsible for implementing the maritime elements of the 2019 National SAR Plan. Under the Framework for Emergency Management, the Coast Guard is designated as one of the 4 principal emergency services. And the Coast Guard assists on request An Garda Síochána in responding to incidents on land and may initiate an initial response through provision of Coast Guard resources or be requested to coordinate the incident on behalf of An Garda Síochána. The Coast Guard volunteer sector is an integral element of service delivery, and our nationwide coastal network of 44 units with over 900 members are focused on serving their local communities and hinterland. To that end, we have many connections with missing person situations. In more recent times, the Coast Guard suffered the trauma of a helicopter loss off Blacksod in County Mayo. Sadly, the bodies of two of the crew, Paul Armsby and Kieran Smith, were never recovered. Not a day goes by that we do not reflect on the loss endured by all four families, the Smiths, the Ormsbys, the Duffys and the Fitzpatricks, and they are never far from our thoughts. Nor indeed are the family of Katrina Lucas, a volunteer member of the Coast Guard who lost her life when participating in a search operation. On termination of what we call a search and rescue operation at sea, which essentially means there is no longer any reasonable chance of recovering somebody alive, the Coast Guard is obliged to assess the likelihood of locating and recovering the remains of those presumed deceased. Based on that assessment, the Coast Guard may initiate a planned search to locate bodies under the authority of An Garda Síochána. And just by way of example, Coast Guard is currently assisting An Garda Síochána with 3 different searches for missing persons around the country, all pertaining to recent events. Another important area of work carried out by the Coast Guard pertains to aeromedical assistance to the HSE. Such services include day and night aeromedical support to the island communities, where we conduct over 100 flights per year, or approximately 2 per week, inter-hospital transfers, and other air ambulance services known as HEMS, Helicopter Emergency Medical Services. Coast Guard services are managed regionally and coordinated through the 3 rescue coordination centres based at Mallinhead in Donegal, Valentia in County Kerry, and the Marine Rescue Coordination Centre in Dublin. Each centre has a geographical area of responsibility covering both offshore and inland. In terms of specific incident response, resources available to the Coast Guard include the aforementioned 44 volunteer Coast Guard units, providing a combination of search, cliff rescue, rescue boat, and drone or unmanned vehicle search capability. The Coast Guard helicopter service, which is a day and night service operating out of 4 bases at Sligo, Shannon, Waterford and Dublin. Declared resources, and particularly the RNLI and community inshore rescue boats. State resources on request, including the Navy and the Air Corps. And other voluntary organisations, including Mountain Rescue Ireland teams, the Irish Cave Rescue Organisation, and many other locally organised voluntary search organisations. We also have what we term vessels of opportunity, and that's the obligation on all mariners to provide assistance to somebody in difficulty at sea, and a range of other services that may be volunteered by the general public. Thank you again for your invitation here today and in affording me an opportunity to give some sense of the search resources that are coordinated by the Coast Guard. As an organisation that encounters both the highs and successes and the lows of search operations where the desired outcome is not achieved, we're honoured to support this day of commemoration for missing persons, and again to recognise the lasting trauma for their families and friends. We continue to work with An Garda Síochána to assist wherever possible. Permit me to conclude by quoting the late Brendan Kennelly. Though we live in a world that dreams of ending, that always seems about to give in, something that will not acknowledge conclusion insists that we forever begin. Gura Maithagibh.
Thank you very much, Gerard. I've been reporting on missing persons cases for 25 years now, and in that time I've seen new generations of families of missing people begin to ask their own questions, sometimes take up or share the mantle of campaigning and urging authorities to do more and asking the public for ongoing help. I have no doubt but that this helps to keep public awareness and keep public pressure where it needs to be. We next hear from a woman whose grandmother is missing since 1985 from Carna in County Galway. We now hear from Aideen Walsh, granddaughter of Barbara Walsh.
Around 4 o'clock in the morning, my mom got up. She got a pillow from the hot press and got a blanket. So she put the pillow underneath my grandmother's head because she had fallen asleep on the couch. And then she put the blanket on her and she went back to sleep, and that was the last time anyone had seen her. My name's Aileen Walsh. The person missing is Barbara Walsh. She'd be my grandmother, so she'd be my mother's mother. Her kids adored her. She was just like any caring mother that you could ever imagine. And even as a wife to my granddad, you know, he used to say as well how great she was and how good she was to the kids. She always made sure that anyone that came into the house felt welcome. She was a very welcoming person. She went missing the 22nd of June 1985. They had a little family gathering at their house, the local house in Rushy-na-Managh. And there was 2 guards, there was a priest, there was his brother and sister, Patrick and Catherine, and there was a few local neighbours at the party as well. The party went on till about maybe 1 or 2, and then everyone left. We know she didn't leave. She had kids ranging from 9 months to 18-year-old. For the way that we heard about her and how she was as a mother, you know she wouldn't leave her kids. She loved her kids. And I know someone did do something to her. We just want to know what. It's hard because we never got to have her in our life. Not getting to know that person that was, you know, your mom's mother, it's upsetting because we never got to meet the person that she was. We only got to hear the stories. And at the end of the day, I think people need to understand is it's not just her children that are grieving this, it's her grandchildren that are grieving this as well. Because we never met the person that our parents are talking about. When we did the appeal in June, it was just to help my mom out. They thought it was a good way of getting more people interested in the story and helping us. Because I'm her granddaughter, it shows that the next generation and the generation after me are going to still keep on fighting to find answers out. After you do it, you feel kind of a little bit of weight lifted off your shoulders because you're helping and you're getting your voice heard and you're getting your opinion heard and trying to help other people as well. We just want people to help us go through this hard time and to help us get some answers and just to try and help us bring her home.
Thank you very much, Aideen. And as Aideen expressed there, someone is responsible for taking Barbara away. Someone did something. And the family just want to know what. They want to know where Barbara is. This is a case that is the subject of an ongoing review by An Garda Síochána. And certain things were done in the original investigation that maybe wouldn't be done today, including the fact that a number of statements were taken in English when Barbara had disappeared from a Gaeltacht area. But I know the current Garda investigation is very thorough. It is designed to get answers, and I do hope those answers come. Our next speaker is also from Cundin na Gaillimhe. Dr. Ciarán McLaughlin is the coroner for West Galway and is representing the coroner service here today. The work of coroners and missing persons has been much reported on in recent times as advances in forensic science have led to the identification of a number of previously unidentified bodies. I know Dr. McLaughlin has himself held a number of inquests into cases which have been solved. I invite Dr. McLaughlin to address us.
Minister, Commissioner, our virtual audience, family and friends of missing persons. I speak to you today on behalf of the Coroners of Ireland and the Coroner Service. We empathise with you who have a loved one missing. Pain is a physiological, noxious stimulus experienced by all of us from early childhood. Pain also has a psychological and emotional component. We who have not experienced your loss can only contemplate what such pain feels like. Sleepless nights, broken restless sleep, daily flashbacks, silent birthdays, a vacant chair at Christmas, no exchange of gifts or phone calls, a tearful moment, an emptiness at family occasions such as weddings and sporting events. The coroners have engaged with other services to identify remains discovered in their districts. Methods used in the past were the presence of congenital anomalies, previous operations or injuries, tattoos, personal effects on the person, dental records, facial reconstruction, radioisotope mapping, carbon dating, mitochondrial DNA, and nuclear DNA analysis. All of these methods, either singularly or collectively, have been successful in establishing the identity of human remains. From now on, an inventory of all human remains in the state will be kept by the coroners, the Forensic Science Laboratory, and An Garda Síochána. This inventory has been given a statutory approval and is now obligatory for coroners to return the number of unidentified remains in their districts annually. Precise mapping of unidentified remains interred will be recorded in order that they will be easily located if an exhumation is necessary or requested in the future. The success of DNA analysis is dependent on a sample being compared with a sample of a very close relative, and I ask that first-degree relatives, a parent or sibling of missing persons, to provide a DNA sample in order that immediate comparison can be undertaken when a body is discovered. It is envisaged that the immediate identification will be possible with the use of this protocol. The public have always been generous with their efforts, energy and skills in searching for a missing person. Recently it was disclosed at an inquest that a missing person would probably not have been discovered without the use of a search and rescue dog. At that inquest, words of appreciation were expressed to the following for their efforts in searching for that individual: the Mayo and Galway Civil Defence, the Galway Mountain Rescue Team, Search and Rescue Dog Association, the Irish Coast Guard locally at Cleggan and Costello Bay, and the Galway Sub-Aqua Club. Frequently the RNLI, Fire Service, Air Sea Rescue and other voluntary services in conjunction with relatives, friends and civilians participated in the searches and provide food and refreshments for all of those involved. Searches are always coordinated by An Garda Síochána. There are similar local rescue services located around the country. The military have on many occasions been involved in the searches. Recently, I read an emotional letter from a father to his son who was serving on the Western Front in World War I. The letter started with the salutation, "My dear little boy," and after some words of advice ended as follows: "And one, unto the Son of God is walking at your side. Try and get leave near as possible before Christmas. We are longing more than I can say to see you. Your loving Dad." This letter was written on the 18th of November 1916. Today he was posted missing, the last day of the Battle of the Somme, and returned 5 days later marked missing. That Christmas was a sad, dark, lonely and tearful occasion for the family of 2nd Lieutenant Eric Douglas Smart. And those sentiments I know resonate completely with you and are totally understood by us. You can be reassured that the Coroner's Service, An Garda Síochána and the Forensic Science Laboratory Ireland will work tirelessly to identify any remains discovered anywhere in the country, and will contact, when appropriate, the relevant services in other countries around the world. Thank you for affording me your time.
Thank you very much, Dr. McLaughlin, and I wish you and your fellow coroners well with ongoing efforts to identify bodies. Currently, there are no officially published statistics relating to unidentified bodies, but the message from Minister McEntee and Dr. McLaughlin and Commissioner Harris is that with this new protocol, that a lot more information will be gathered, and that will lead, I'm sure, to the identification of more unidentified bodies in the future. I myself have published what I have found, the detail I've found, and most recently I had a list of 36 unidentified bodies dating from the 1960s to present day. I know there are more that haven't been reported on. I believe in the coming year, more detail will emerge as Garda files are searched, cemetery records are examined, newspaper cuttings, and also the corporate memory of people who were involved perhaps in burials in previous decades. More cases can be solved, and I'm sure will be solved. I think of all the Irish people who are missing abroad. In the United States, the search continues for Cian McLaughlin, a 27-year-old Dubliner who's missing since June at a US national park in Wyoming. Cian's family and friends continue to mount an ongoing publicity campaign to target people who are or have visited that area to share any photographs or video which might assist the search for Cian. There are so many Irish people missing in other countries, from John McMeal, also missing in the United States, to J.P. Grealis, missing in Holland, Jonathan Spollen, missing in India, to Amy Fitzpatrick, a child, missing in Spain. I sincerely hope answers are found in these cases soon. One family which did get an answer this year was the family of Westmeath father of two, Peter Wilson. Peter's disappearance in the Canary Islands in 2019 led to 2 years of his family going through agony, asking so many questions and urging so many searches in the Canaries. This year, Peter's body was found, and Peter was laid to rest back home, back in Ireland. We hear now from Peter's mum and dad, Jackie and Peter Sr.
The person who's missing was my son, Peter Wilson. He's from Rochester Bridge here, Dergreen Park, where he grew up all his life.
He worked in Mullingar in a factory for the last 5-6 years. The daddy to 2 little girls. He went missing in 2019. He went to Tenerife for a week's holidays. One night into his holidays, he went missing. Was last seen on the Saturday night, leaving his hotel at 11ish. That was the last that was seen of Peter.
Of course, we were hoping that he would turn up and show up.
But we definitely knew on that Wednesday when he didn't go take any money out of his bank account that there was something not right, that this was serious. You get into bed every night, you say, where are you? What happened to you? You wake up in the morning, pull up the blinds. Where are you, son?
To get back on that plane every time and come home.
That was just awful. That was the worst thing. When you're taking off in that plane, you're looking down in Tenerife and saying, where in this country are you? Like, and looking out that window every time, and it was just getting harder and harder to go because
you had to come home
it was harder and harder to get.
To come home and tell his 2 little girls, and we didn't find them.
There was a storm in Tenerife in January, and when the storm came, it shifted some of the rubble and it fell down. And when they got in workmen the next day to clear away the rubble,
obstruction, you see, like a dry riverbed, or
that's where they found him. My heart goes out to all these parents and families who have missing persons and have no idea what happened to them, because it is the worst.
It's the worst feeling
in the world.
You can't explain it. Only the people that have been through it know it.
No, exactly.
And we've been through both ends of it. We can relate to these people, and hopefully someday they can relate this side we're on now, that we have closure. They can have somewhere to go and lay their loved one to rest.
We planted a tree outside on our green out there in remembrance of him. There was a couple of tyres belonging to a car. He had a wheel and a tyre, and we painted that up and put his name on it and planted a rose in it.
Of course, there's a couple of memories, but like as I always say about Peter and the one I'm talking about the dog here, like when Sophia was born, like Peter came over and he says, I want to leave the dog here because Sophia's coming home, and it's okay if I leave the dog here for 2 weeks until Sophia settles in. Of course you can. And as you can see, 10 years later, or 9 years later, the dog is still here. It's still back, But
love dogs.
We were lucky. It was nature to give us the break, because but there's people out there, and there's people know about where people are. Even if they would only just leave a note somewhere, Make a phone call, a text, just help these families get closure. The ongoing support to all the people that are still in this situation, please keep them supported because they need every bit of support they can get, you know. We found out how good everyone is through Sam when you are in your hour of need. People really and communities come together.
Thank you, Jackie and Peter. I know that your message will bring comfort and strength to other families, and I know you will continue to help other families as they continue to search for their loved ones. I want to acknowledge the great work that continues to be done by the National Missing Persons Helpline on Facebook and Twitter and at missingpersons.ie. I also salute the good contact made across the Irish Sea with the Locate group and many individual families. And back home, I'm delighted to see initiatives such as the publicity campaign by Grafton Barbers, whose premises are showing images of missing people. We're coming towards the end of this year's ceremony. I hope that this time next year we will be able to gather together if we wish, but I know the world is a different place now than some years ago. Even if we do have the opportunity to meet in person for the next Missing Persons Day, we may keep some of the elements of today's ceremony so that people can view the ceremony if they're unable to travel to the event. We will end today's ceremony, as always, with the release of pigeons, but these pigeons have already been released. It's a video of last December when Paddy and Susan Maples and Tosh Lavery, a friend of so many families of missing people, released pigeons at Farmley, which is for so many people the home of Missing Persons Day, where it all began. Because of the current state of the COVID-19 pandemic, it was decided not to release pigeons today, but rather show the previous footage. I would hope that by this time next year, we'll be back to some form of normal. Pigeons are hugely symbolic. When released, no matter where released from, they know how to find home. I think today of people who are sadly no longer with us to remember missing people. I think of Jean O'Connor, who passed away this year following an illness. Jean was a friend to many people, someone who lit up a room with kindness and conversation. Jean's son, Owen, was murdered in 2014. His body lay hidden for a month. So Jean knew what it felt like to have a loved one missing. I think of Jean and I think of her son. His murder remains unsolved. I also think of Patsy McAteer, a sister of Seamus Ruddy. Seamus's body lay hidden in France for over 30 years after he was killed by the INLA. Patsy and the rest of Seamus's loved ones campaigned for decades and worked with the Wave Trauma Centre to assist other families. Patsy died suddenly last month. Her husband Peter died later the same day. I also think of Archie McConville, who died in October. Archie was 16 when his mother Jean was abducted by the IRA and shot dead, and her body buried on a beach in County Louth. Archie loved pigeons. They reminded him of happy times before his father died and his mother was murdered. I thank everybody in the Department of Justice who has worked to make today's event such a successful one. In particular, I thank Angela O'Neill, who has put a huge amount of work into today's event. It involves a lot of coordination over a great number of months. Thank you, Angie. Thank you also to Roisin Gaffney, Aileen Brennan, Rob Hansbury, Dara Brennan, Bill Sweeney, Andrew Skelton, Megan Woods, Niall Colgan, Colm Daly, Conor O'Riordan. And thank you also to Sinead Hession in the department, a long-time friend of Missing Persons Day. I also want to thank Avcom, who have provided all the work here at Croke Park today to make today the event that it is. Thank you to Peter and Dave and Dermot and everybody else here today. Minister and Commissioner, I know that some families, if they had been here, would have liked a quiet word with both of you about their loved ones' cases. And perhaps that can still be arranged through a phone call or a video call, a letter, or perhaps a meeting in the new year. That personal interaction that we don't have today, we hope to get back when we can. I thank the Minister and the Commissioner and our other two speakers, Dr. McLaughlin and Gerard O'Flynn, who joined me here today. And I especially thank our four families who spoke so wonderfully, so lovingly about their loved ones. I also thank our musicians, soloist Ruby Boland and pianist Owen Lynch, and also our violinist, Damie And Damie will play us out in just a moment with a song that we all know, and sometimes music can say it all. It is through unity that we will solve more cases. I have no doubt that will happen. Until we meet again, I wish you all a happy Christmas, and let us hope that the new year brings answers for some of our 876 missing people on this island. Gudi sin gur raibh míle maithagah, slán agus beannacht.